The weasel. They have long, slender bodies with their big tails making up anywhere between 30 to 50% of their total body length. These carnivorous predators are built for speed and are what I like to call nature's little assassin. Being skilled hunters, they are adaptable to various types of difficult terrain and weather conditions. These characteristics caught the attention of Japanese people, specifically the ones that were dealing with the growing pest problem on their islands. It was during this time in the late 19th century that the Japanese weasel was introduced to other areas to deal with the growing rodent population overrunning their land. From the subtropical Ryukyu Islands in the southwest region to the large and cold island of Hokkaido in the north, that the weasel has made its new home. This small but stealthy mammal has captivated the imagination of humans for ages. Despite its tiny size, the weasel has had a large impact in various myths and folklore across many cultures. While mostly symbolic as a type of spirit and sacred animal in Celtic culture and medieval Europe, I find the most intriguing aspect of their adaptation in Japanese culture as a yokai, which is the focus of today's video. So join me in my creative process on how I made the Kamaitachi, while also exploring the various lore and legends behind this lethal drifter of the wind. This is jackyllofhyde presents the Yokai series. Hey friend, it's Jackie here. I'm finally back with another art project in my Yokai series. As always, we will begin with making the armature. In terms of the sculpting, it'll be much simpler since I'll be creating cute little weasels, but with a twist. Adding some copper wire to make the arms and legs. Also, I'm not making one, but 3 versions of this character. You'll see why later on as I explain more about the Kamaitachi. Since the sculpting process will be the same for all 3 characters, I will focus on showing you the build on one of them. The Kamaitachi, its name literally translates to sickle weasel. The name itself could also have been a play off of a sword stance called Kamaitachi, meaning poised sword, also called the Izuchi in other regions, but this is less commonly used. Often described to be weasels with spiny, quill-like furry pelts, while also fashioning claws that is razor sharp and are as strong as steel. They are insanely fast, appearing invisible to the naked eye, living in areas such as Niigata, Yamanashi, and Nagano, basically the Koshin Etsu region of Japan. Here they master the ability to ride the gusts of whirlwinds that frequently blow through these areas. Much like other animals or material things in Japan, such as mammals, insects, man-made tools, household objects, etc., it is believed that when something lives to a ripe old age, it would develop supernatural abilities, or a kami. While inanimate objects often become sentient and gain mobility, living creatures will often develop traits like shapeshifting and becoming much more mischievous in nature, some even developing a taste for blood or human flesh. The Kamaitachi are very diverse, with having many variations in its lore and character, depending on which region of Japan you are referring to. One example comes from the Hida province region. Here, the Kamaitachi are described to be 3 separate deities, one to knock over their victim, the second to deal the swift cut, and the last one to apply a healing salve to the injury, resulting in a thin scar line and no blood is often spilled. According to the Toho region, they say to remove the scar left by the Kamaitachi, one must burn the calendar and rub the remaining ashes onto the wound. In another region, they are referred to as Idzuna. This version is said to have a lust for blood. Just like a vampire, they would drink the blood from the wounds of their victim. Origins of the Kamaitachi could be an old wives' tale to rationally explain how people would randomly receive cuts and tears on their body, with no explanation to how it occurred. It actually has a name and has been documented by the medical community called Kamaitachi wounds or Kamaitachi disease, such as the British Medical Journal in 1911 titled An Epitome of Current Medical Literature, Spontaneous Wounds. Areas like the Onshu mountain ranges, a known phenomenon where these kinds of wounds appear, due to exposed skin coming in contact with debris being tossed around in these stray air currents. The air currents were the result of temporary vacuums created during thunderstorms. Overall, I always find it fascinating how the human mind works. Our imagination like to think of these weird monsters and how we use them as a type of scapegoat to explain strange and unknown phenomenon that will appear in our reality. Or how it's also a tool made by adults to fabricate these elaborate cautionary tales that were told to children, either to scare and or entertain them into behaving. Regardless, it's little things like this that I find exciting and inspires me to make the art that I make. So back to the sculpture, it's now starting to look more like a weasel as I'm finishing up the sculpt. Last thing for me to add is some spiny quills along the tail. In some instances, during my research, it would state that the Kamaitachi is some unique creature. It will resemble or look like a weasel, while others claim it to be a chimeric weasel with hedgehog quills and sickle or sword-like claws. Combine that with a cunning personality, and you got yourself one badass weapon-based character. Now moving on to something more challenging. It all started with this burning question that has been bugging me for a very long time, which is, how do you sculpt wind? It's clearly a very niche thing to ask, but something that is very hard to answer. I've seen a handful of tutorials using wire and cotton balls to make more realistic tornadoes, which is fine for simple miniatures and dioramas, but not the right look I'm going for. Ultimately, I needed something to act as a stand and base for my little furry friends, while also portraying something that is only visible when moving. So the solution I came up with was to sculpt a wind pillar using Apoxie Sculpt. It will be sturdy enough to display my 3 figures. Then I use Cosclay to refine the details. My main inspiration is from old sprites and artwork from video games and manga that had a distinct style when portraying still shots of blurred motion effects. This was hard to replicate into sculpture, and it definitely took me a while to figure out how to pull this off. For part 2 to completing this effect, I'm sketching out some whimsical air currents to fill out this wind pillar base, giving it more visual appeal and movement into my sculpture. Once I have all my pieces, I'll slightly curl the edges to get the forms I want. Then I can reinforce my pieces with UV resin. This will give the paper strength and flexibility, while also keeping it lightweight. Repeating this process on the backside as well. After some much needed trimming to clean up my edges, these are now ready for the final step. I will attach some 20mm gauge wire for extra stability and flexibility. Since the paper is too flimsy on its own, even after a couple of coats of UV resin, adding a nail to act as a connector to my pillar. This wind effect is now complete. I'll finish the rest of them off camera. Alrighty, my gang of misfit weasels are all here. Here is my wind base. I'm really digging this arrangement for it. Now let's take this apart so we can begin the painting. Evening everything out with a flat gray primer. The paint job will be simple. This base will get a coat of white paint, with lighter grays throughout certain areas to create depth and value. I originally left this part white for the wind effect, but it looked too flat. So off camera, I painted over the outside with the shiny silver paint I had to finish it off. As for my Kamaitachi, I'm basing it off the color pattern of real Japanese weasels. They have a golden brown and orange colored fur with lighter patches around their mouths and necks and underbelly. A unique detail they have is a dark, almost black patch around their eyes and face, similar to like a burglar's mask, which is quite adorable in my opinion. Kamaitachi may not be as well known compared to other yokais like the kappa, tanuki, or kitsune. They are still very beloved and has been a huge influence in things like anime, manga, video games, Pokemon, and so much more. Being both lovable with a lethal edge is what makes this yokai clearly a cut above the rest. Now for my final detail, if you know me, I love adding touches of metallic to my pieces whenever possible. So I'm busting out my silver chrome markers again to complete the long sickle-like claws of my Kamaitachi. What was supposed to be a fun and simple project turned into frustrations with delays, stepping away to deal with personal matters, and losing motivation in the process for some time due to boring adult things and responsibilities that I needed to take care of. A lot of changes has happened in a short amount of time. It's with all those hard times that makes me really appreciate the blessings that have come my way as well. You must take the good with the bad. That is a fact of life. Anyways, enough of my rambling nonsense. Let's get on with the final look. Hope you enjoyed my take on the Kamaitachi. Another one I can finally check off my list of yokais I have planned for this special ongoing series of mine. If you enjoyed this, definitely check out my playlist of other yokais and other sculptures I have made so far. Thank you as always for watching, remember to stay creative, and I will see you in the next one.